The experts in our panel discussion now, they can give a lot of answers, but maybe you also have answers and not only questions. So don't be shy to take part in this discussion, and you are invited to this. First, I want to invite Dr. Max Lemke again. Max, you've taught us a lot before, and now you have a second idea of giving us some intro in our discussion. And I think I'm going to ask the other panelists coming later to you, and you give us the first introduction on stage.
Yeah, I think I should not all the way, it shouldn't always be me talking, so I would just quickly clarify the 500 million. So, because when you put 500 million on the table, it's better to say what it means. Yeah, so I don't need any slides or so. I just want to put what it means. Yeah, 500 million, Commissioner Oettinger has said the European Commission will invest 500 million euros on digital innovation hubs in the 5 years from 2016 to 2020. And when you now look at that, I don't think, and it's not only on I4MS, it is on all digital innovation hub initiatives in the ICT part of the Horizon 2020 program. So when you see 500 million, that's not really that much, because when you look at the past, in FP Framework Program 7, we put up around, Markus has computed it for me, around 150 million on digital innovation hubs across the program. Initiatives similar to this one, where we support innovation experiments, where we support technology transfer from research into SMEs. And in 14-15 we spent around 180 million or so on that in the work programs 14-15. In 16-17 around 200, so we get up to 100 per year. Well, and when I say from 16 to 20, there's missing 300 million in this whole thing, and that's a straight extrapolation from 100 million per year, and that fits very well. So it's not, it's no miracle or anything. It just means we are continuing supporting digital innovation hubs and bringing them together. And we just believe it's not enough. So we need to pool with member states and see how we link all that to the labs we have in member states, Mittelstands labs in Germany, Handwerks labs in Germany, smart industry field labs in the Netherlands. We're hosted by the Netherlands. They have a good example of a smart industry initiative, and strong labs, totally different from the German ones, organized in a totally different way. And we have the high-value manufacturing catapults. You have the labs in France who focus, for example, on HPC, and you have a very variable geometries, and we have to see how we can route the European funding and network and help to add value, bring the glue for the initiatives that we have in member states. It's not a European task, it's only for European funding, but it's a real European task for all actors in that game.
Thank you for this. And we don't want to leave you alone on this stage now, because there are 4 more chairs, 4 chances for other people to talk to us. And first, I want to ask Moritz Butter to our stage from this country here. Thank you very much that you are here tonight, a senior researcher, industrial innovation policy. And the third chair is for George Graham from the University of Edinburgh. Great that you are here today. I hope you did not miss voting.
Hello. Well, actually, yes, I did.
You did? You missed?
I forgot to arrange a photo. So,
okay.
you know, there's a minor event going on.
So we're gonna talk to you tomorrow again. Yeah, if this vote is missing. Okay, we have enough to discuss. Thomas Mazorik, where is he? I said, you're so close to us and I did not see you, sorry. You're welcome here, CEO of Funding Box. If we are together now, we have some leading questions. Some first question, and one question Max Lemke already answered, but, excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry, because we had a change one of the guests could not come, but we have a great guest who's holding a speech later, and he said, well, he will come to our panel discussion as well. Ulrich from Germany, from the famous institute. I'm sorry, now I'm a little from Fraunhofer Institute. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, if we talk about the role of DIH in the innovation landscape, how would you describe it? What is so important on this, Moritz?
Well, I think the competence centers, which are established in the past years, they show that technology, I4MS technologies, like IoT, robotics, etc., can be very important for SMEs to get to another stage and to increase competitiveness and create new businesses. But what you see a lot is to cross the valley of death is much more than technology and expertise alone. Where the competence centers are highly used to share costs in equipment and to create experiences, how to valorize I4MS technologies. The actual creation of business is much more than that kind of technologies. There are skills involved, there the business development involved, and all these other aspects are crucial. The ecosystem development, knowing what the supply chain is and how to organize your business is crucial in making the last step and creating actual business out of I4MS technologies. So that's why the digital innovation hubs are so important to add added services to the competence centers in order to help the SMEs cross the valley of death.
George Graham, how do you see the way to get from a competence center to a digital innovation hub? What is needed?
Okay. Well, Max defined quite clearly earlier the difference between a competence center and a hub. In I4MS terms, competence center is giving access to technology, infrastructure, expertise, HPC for simulation and modeling, robotics, sensors, lasers. And in a sense, digital innovation hubs differentiate from competence centers by providing access to another dimension, which is finance, innovation, funding, and so on. So in that respect, and kind of innovation hubs are perhaps segmented on a geographic basis, competence centers segmented on a technology. So how does a competence center become an innovation hub? Well, I guess from EPCC's experience, whilst EPCC is a well-regarded competent and established competence center, we have quite a large and strong partner network. We partner with Scottish Enterprise. We work with SMEs. A lot of the activities we do is finding funding for SMEs. The UK has got a very mature innovation system. Max mentioned catapults. Catapults have a plethora of centres below them, the Advanced Forming Centre and so on, the Advanced Manufacturing Centre below the High Valued Manufacturing Catapult. The Scottish Government's just created a new hub for manufacturing. We've got 6 or 7 innovation centres in Scotland. So EPCC exists within quite a mature ecosystem of innovation hubs and catapults anyway. So from EPCC's point of view, it's relatively easy to transform itself into both being a competence centre and a hub. We simply formalise the informal activities that we're taking up till now with respect to providing access to finance, access to innovation. And Max also mentioned one-stop shop function of hubs. Well, One-stop shop may be a requirement. I think that's quite a complex requirement. I would see it as one-stop access, single point of access through a digital innovation hub to technology across Europe. And perhaps just a couple of personal observations. I think in line with Industry 4.0 having standardization as a main enabler of implementation, I would also see standardization of business model as being an advantageous requirement of European digital innovation hubs. By having standardized business models, it means that hubs and competence centers can interact in a useful ecosystem to deliver value, both access to finance, access to competence for European SMEs, European manufacturing organizations. So I guess that's my view from personal experience from working within EPCC as to how EPCC as a competence centre could transform itself into a very effective digital innovation hub.
Thank you. Tomasz Mazurek, what are important barriers in establishing a DIH, and how can other stakeholders help to establishing a hub? What are present experiences that you made?
We are the first Polish digital innovation hub in the making. We are still in the very initial phase of setting up and building a business plan for the future digital innovation hub. But as the first step, what we have done, we have analyzed the market. And obviously, as anticipated, the barrier is how to get from analog to digital. Trying to be more specific, our hub is high-power computing, HPC, so the obstacles are that many companies simply don't know what HPC is. So obviously they don't know how to use it. And for those that know what high-power computing is, for many of them, they believe that their scale of production is not big enough so that HPC can bring added value for them. So one of the first tasks of the hub will be educational role to teach the market, teach companies how they can benefit from the new digital technologies. Now about the highlights and engagement of the other partners. Last week there was a huge event in Poland, in Krakow, where Polish government has announced massive measures for Polish innovation ecosystem, a huge amount of money going into the digitization of economy, supporting of innovation, and supporting of startups. So this is the perfect match with the initiative that Commission has launched recently, and those 500 million euros. So we'll have another big money coming from Polish government to help grow those initiatives. And even more important, through one of our consortium members, Polish Agency of Enterprise Development, we have engaged with central Polish government that has declared their support in creating those digital hubs. So the most probable scenario is that our hub will become sort of the seed concept for more hubs being created in the later part of this year across of Poland. So I think this is the very, very important milestone.
Ulrich Thormansen from well-known institute, Fraunhofer Institute. What's the role of your institute in this game?
The role of our institute in this game is sort of being starting point for these competence centers. But as a Fraunhofer guy, there are two hearts in my breast. It's on the one side, the research, trying to get solutions for scientific challenges. And on the other side, this entrepreneurial challenge of getting solutions really to the market. And at Fraunhofer IoT, we have 1 to 2 spin-offs per year. So we precisely know about what these people face. We're also sometimes involved in such spin-offs, so people from our groups go into these spin-offs, team up with other competencies, and that's exactly one of the challenging points. We see in the I4MS initiative with the competence centers right now that depending on the size of the SME, you have completely different challenges to such an innovation kind of circle. For the small companies and larger companies, for smaller problems or larger problems. But what we see is that in most cases, there's at least one competence missing. That's the reason why you enter such a competence center, why you try to team up with them. And to get such a support is sometimes very difficult for an SME because I have to read all the rules. I have to understand where to go to get an answer to my questions. If I've got a business case problem or problem to write up my business model, then I have to go to someone different than having asked financing or having to ask for technological support. So it's that's what I expect from the digital innovation hubs, that they serve, you said, a single entry point, that they serve as a single entry point, that me as the SME doesn't have to tell the story 1, 2, or 3 times in 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes different kind of confidentiality environments. Because SMEs often have an innovative idea. If this idea is going to be spread to newspapers, then they might be too slow. However, to talk to people who know how to do it is very important. So this confidentiality environment has to be there. To enter such a system of confidentiality with multiple competencies that add up to support me in implementing my product or my service idea. That's what I would like to see from the digital innovation hubs.
Special thanks to Fraunhofer Institute.
We are doing that sort of. So one of the questions was, is Fraunhofer a digital innovation hub? So is Fraunhofer ILT a digital innovation hub or is it just a competence center? I would still say we are still a competence center because we do not have the business guys in our house. We know where to send people, but we do not have this mechanism of having a single entry with a single confidentiality and doing the whole service from aus einer Hand in German, from one hand. So to have one service point.
I think it's time to ask the audience. Do you have questions or remarks, comments? Nobody? Please, I come with the microphone. Oh, where is it? I just deposited it there. Okay, would you hand it over to me? Thank you very much. Okay. I just got the hint that the lady was the first, and I think we should ask the lady first. Thank you for your...
Thank you. And is it working? Yes, it is. So I have a question for Mr. Marsurik. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. So you're starting this initiative with the digital innovation hubs, and have you had some type of coaching from the I4MS, or how has this practically worked for you to be becoming a digital innovation hub from a competence center you were?
Well, as I mentioned, this is the very initial phase. So we have been able to set up the consortium. We have built the first concepts, and now we are starting the phase of engaging with TNO to discuss how to move further, how to refine the proposal, how to include mentoring into this proposal, and so on. So yes, we have just kick-started this, but this is too early to say about the outcome of this. This is just 1 month of work.
Is that okay for you, or you want more answers for this?
No.
Okay, would you hand the microphone over?
Perhaps I can
Oh,
a little bit further on that. I'm from
please.
TNO. No, I think what needs to be explained here is that we have been setting up the proposal or the call for proposals in January. Then in April, I think we selected 3 pioneering proposals to create feasibility studies for digital innovation hubs. And we had a kickoff meeting where we explored a little bit what are the demands for organizations from the perspective of mentoring and sponsoringship. And we are a little bit already working on that, but it's very early stages, but we hope to have that much more clear in the next, let's say, 2-3 months. So, and then we'll spread it out, as Max already said. We are now also in the process of selecting another 24 proposals for further mentoring and sponsoring, and then the lessons learned that we will have that will feed into that mentoring program.
Thank you, Moritz. And then you can ask your question, please.
Hi, Gash Buller, representing SMEs as usual. I think that the programs that we talk about in these rooms and in these sort of places are absolutely fantastic. But the marketing and getting out to the real SMEs and the people that need these centres and need the help, what's the sort of marketing strategy for you to sort of open up yourselves, not just as special centres just around the place, but working with the local colleges, universities, and fostering, don't forget, all the way through from young people to come into this sort of sector?
Okay, once again from EPCC's experience, we actually have a commercial outreach function, so we call it a business development function, call it a sales function. A lot of people don't like the word sales, but we do have a sales function. And it's about reaching, it's about proactive push selling, yeah? So it's pushing communications, marketing, PR, selling to organizations, okay? However, I think if we extrapolate that into the I4MS Digital Innovation Hub initiative, I think that's what I referred to as standardization of business model, okay? I think it's about branding. I think it's about the European Commission branding digital innovation hubs with, a stamp of authority which reinforces the hub across the nations, across the regions, such that it gives innovation hubs, when they start up, an authoritative stamp that they can go to their local economic development agencies with authority saying, okay, we're working with the EC. We want to engage with EC funds, but we want to engage with local and national funds in order to develop and sustain these digital innovation hubs. Yeah. So part of that standardized business model for digital innovation hubs would be, okay, how do we relate to potential customers? Yeah. How do we operate? How do we outreach? How do we market? How do we do PR? How do we do sales and so on? Yeah. So it's about creating a network and branding that network and communicating that network and communicating the single access points, so that SMEs, not only SMEs, but industrial organizations across Europe know where to go when they need access to finance, funds, innovation, technology through the competence centers and so on. So that's kind of what I meant by, standardized business model.
Anybody else who wants to answer to this question more?
What I sometimes see is that especially the small startups lack the competence to market their solutions. So we're just asking how the hubs would market themselves, but I think that's also one thing that has to be added to fill up the competence of smaller companies, that if they have this innovative idea, that right from the start you focus on making it a business case. Because without a business case, we don't have to do experiments. Without a marketing approach, without knowing the market itself, we don't have to start any work.
Max.
Yeah, I think when we talk about marketing here, we have to be a bit careful. It's not only marketing that we have to do, because when I already look at the current calls for proposals, we have huge oversubscription. So marketing is a good thing to do, but while we do more marketing and better marketing towards SMEs, we also have to build the system up, because we will not be able to cope with the response we get. We already got very high response now. So for me, it's now very important that we link what happens on national and regional levels, so that certain experiments can be supported on that level, and that your centers who are involved in I4MS are also rooted in your regional and national ecosystems, so that we can the European funding and support can concentrate on the European added value. Yeah, I think that's key here. So otherwise we end up with just getting oversubscription, and everybody's disappointed that they don't get support. May I have another remark on
Sure.
competence and centers and innovation hubs? I think this is more done, this distinguishing between them is more done to make up our mind to see what SMEs really need, rather than wanting to be religious about what is a hub and what is exactly the line between the two. SMEs need three things, I think. They need access to competences. That's the typical competence center. They need networking, and the competence centers being networked with others can provide them the network and the competence of what is not available in there directly close to them. And last not least, they need access to money, yeah, and that is what innovation hubs, the innovation hub part, which is not competence center, in a sense, can help them. And only the three of them work for SMEs, is my understanding. That's also the criticism we often receive in the Commission when you look at pure financing instruments. Sometimes SMEs are happy with money, but money alone doesn't solve the problem of this digital transformation, because they miss the rest. Yeah? And giving them money for it doesn't help them to do the digital transformation if we don't put the whole thing together. So we have to make sure that we gradually grow this to get all these things ready for the hubs.
One thing to that? I would agree absolutely. I think to sum up though, what SMEs and organisations need is access to services. Yeah, so you can and they need a service model within their business model. And I think it's exactly the same, once again, the Industry 4.0 analogy, which is about the servitization of manufacturing. Yeah, so we're talking about the servitization of digital innovation hubs, the servitization of competence centres, whereby they understand what their user needs are from a commercial point of view, and they deliver services that provide value and meet those needs.
Perhaps I can add some experience also from the Smart Industry initiative. We are in Holland, and the Field Lab Smart Industry are, of course, important for the Netherlands. Also, some site visits are organized to some field labs. Well, if you look at the Smart Industry agenda and the Smart Industry strategy, exploitation of the smart industry or digital innovation kind of technologies is in the Smart Industry agenda organized also in a different way. So it's not only about experiments, it's not only about trying things out together with companies and research or whatever kind of organizations trying to make that happen, but it's also to create awareness to the broader audience. And there's a full strand on that within the Smart Industry agenda focusing on that. And that's about, of course, having workshops, but also now there's scans developed that you can use as an SME to try and find out, is digitization, is that an interesting idea for us? How can that be can that be done in our organization? So if you look at the I4MS experiments, there's 200 experiments, 250 I think. Well, if you look at the number of SMEs that are important for, or where digitalization is important for, it's 100-fold. So you need to also to create another strategy to also get to those organizations.
Just one comment on that. I completely agree on that, and you see that already happening. And you see, I think I see a European role of marketing these innovation experiences to the community, to ones who can profit from it, because we have the I4MS experiments in the blue brochure that you got. We have the German experiments in the MAP Industry 4.0 that was made available at the last digital Nationaler IT-Gipfel in November. There were 200 of these experiments. I see the French doing that somewhere in some map, and I think it's also our role to bring all these experiments together so that the 100-fold number of SMEs can have access to these innovative experiments.
I think so. Yeah.
And I have a first question that arrived as via Twitter. Can digital innovation hubs also be used to incorporate youngsters and young talents into the digital society? It's a question from Jose Maria.
Oh, wow. Yes, who?
Who wants to answer?
And
I
I've
think
got the
it's your-
microphone.
It's
so-
your duty now. You have the microphone.
Yeah, thank you. I think yes. If you look at the digital innovation hubs, for me, a digital innovation hub is a kind of a network where all kinds of organizations come together, and not on a project base, one-on-one, so an opportunity rises and you'll get together, but more as in an institutional way, so that there's formal agreements how to cooperate with each other, because then if a question comes in, it can be in a balanced way put to another partner. And I do think that not only universities, but also startup organizations can be part of the Digital Innovation Hub. And if, for example, universities could be strongly present in those Digital Innovation Hubs from the more teaching point of views, then they could get the students in the digitalization of the industry, and perhaps even create startups from that. So that might be an interesting way, but I'll gladly give it over to someone else.
I think through the universities, and I mean, look at the new hubs. For example, LMS is just a laboratory of university. So there are exactly these young people already involved. They are connected. So that is the entry point. They can engage as a student to work in some projects. If the digital innovation hubs put like easy projects there, which are not too confidential, they can work together with students. They can identify talents. That is exactly the channel to use. And on that slide, it's written brokerage. I mean, that's going to the public. So if young people are interested, then they will see it. I4MS is strongly pointing on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So, I mean, this question came through Twitter. That's a modern way of communicating to the public and also to young people. I think that's coming with it.
Well, students and young people are native digitals. We are speaking here about transforming economy from analog to digital, and they are already thinking digital. It's their natural way of thinking. So I think they are the perfect target group and perfect future innovators that could be just get the facilitation of their ideas, how to turn their ideas into the real businesses through digital innovation hubs.
I think there might be some young students in the room. Could they answer?
Okay, who's the youngest in the room? Please stand up.
Do you want to answer?
Yeah, I tried to follow as much as possible, but it's all very new for me. Oh. This might be handy. I tried to follow as much of this as possible, but I'm just in my bachelor right now, and I'm very inspired by this. This is so new. Also, my mentor came last to me, and she said to me, "You can choose a new minor, and it's process optimizing processes through digitalization." And I haven't really started it yet, but I think it's very interesting. And many of my colleagues, fellow students, also go to choice that minor. So I don't know what to answer, but thank you very much for these.
What we also see from the SMEs is that the way that we communicate their work, the way that they communicate their steps forward, also attracts many people to look at it. Just like you say, you see that things develop, you see how things happen, and that creates so much interest and so much attraction. That benefits for us.
From this, I think I would like to say that I don't think we want a rigorous definition of an innovation hub, whether it helps students, whether it helps youngsters, and so on. I think we see as I said before, variable geometries on these competence centers and innovation hubs across Europe. I don't think we should prescribe exactly what they do, but I see very many ways of what they do. Look at some of the projects we have. Some of them are supporting innovation based on a platform, like an IoT platform, like Feeware. Some of these projects are based on that, and they are promoting in their experiments only that platform in order to support the adoption of the platform. We have others that look at a certain group of technologies and say, SMEs, you need these technologies, so we help you to adopt these technologies. And we have again others who support, not in I4MS, but in one of the other initiatives, Smart Anything Everywhere, and also in ActFast and Tetracom, where we see that research centers are promoting their internal developments into industry. So they support technology transfer. Again, another way of doing, of being an innovation hub or a competence center. And we see some who are very closely linked to training activities, to promotion activities, to outreach activities. So I think everyone should have a little bit of each, but not exactly in the same way. I mean, these hubs have to find their way on how to work in their region. And I definitely, looking at Brexit and other things, I definitely don't want to say I, Max Lemke from the Commission, know how to do that. So I would never want to go into that direction. So everybody should himself know how they do it.
Luckily, he's
Good.
Scottish.
Yes, absolutely. Can I just be partially confrontational and kind of disagree with that a wee bit? I believe that it's about, as I mentioned earlier, it's about hubs and competence centres providing services. I think if you look at the experience in the UK, we've got Scottish innovation centres. We've got 6 or 7 Scottish innovation centres. We've got, in England predominantly, are the catapult centres, the high-valued manufacturing catapult, which has got innovation centres below it. And they have completely different business models to the business models operated by the Scottish innovation centres. So from a customer experience, from a user experience, they do not have a consistent perception of service provision. Therefore, it complicates the experience from the end user, whether it be SME or large company. And my point is, digital innovation hubs, competence centres have to network into a huge European ecosystem. If they don't have consistent user interface, consistent method of service provision, consistent service perception by the end users, I do not think they are going to be as effective as they could be.
I agree, we will not be as efficient as we could be if we harmonized it all across. Yeah, I agree. And we have to find a good balance, like having brokering tools, having a way of implementing this one-stop shop, of one way of saying, well, I don't have that competence, but there's somebody else who has it, and this is the way you get it. But I don't think Europe at the moment, we work in that direction, we should work in that direction. Maybe I shouldn't say the other thing, but I think we have to be balanced and find the line in between. I don't think Europe is ready for the Commission standing up and say, this is how we organize innovation in Europe, and that's the way we do it. So we have to find the way in between.
Okay, we have more Twitter questions, but we have another youngster in the audience who wants to add a question.
Oh, thank you, Thomas, for that. I'm so flattered. My name is Govert Gijsbers from TNO. I had a question. Max, you introduced the idea of technology needing to be available at a working distance, and I was intrigued by that because it's Khalil Rouhana used the same expression yesterday. So I wondered if you could, you have your message coordinated. That's could you elaborate a little bit on that? What you mean by that, and especially what does working distance mean? In a digital age, I mean, what's important about physical proximity? What can be virtual, etc. So I'd like a little bit of elaboration on that and how it relates to the digital innovation hubs.
Okay, for us that means that an SME has to find a competence center, innovation, the innovation competences close to him in his environment that he works. So that means if an SME is somewhere working in his own language, he may want somebody who speaks his language, who can be his first entry point, and who can be his one-stop shop, who arranges how to talk to the others. That may be in some cases somewhere outside the region, but sometimes, very often, I see that today still SMEs, Mittelstand, are very much hooked in their region, and they trust the people in their region, and they trust the service provider that they have, for example, for their IT services. So that would be, for them, their first entry point. Yeah, and then from that entry point, this entry point has to help to bring all the other competences together. They would not want to go to another country and trust a center that they solve their problem. They would not even explain their problem because they think it's taken away. So we need this local, whatever local means. Yeah? Sometimes they are organized in clusters and even clusters across borders. So there may already be trust across borders on that, but they would only trust their own cluster then. They would not go out of that cluster. So it has to be a bit linked to the normal environment in which they operate. That's what I would think, because I don't think it makes sense to give a rigorous definition of saying the hub has to be in there from the Commission defined region in Europe. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And it must be also when I at one point before I hand over, we have this smart specialization of regions, and the smart specialization of that DG Regio applies links really to where a region sees their strength and which strengths they should support. So for me, if a region defines something as a particular strength and something they want to specialize on, then it may make sense even to go the regional approach and say this region should have a digital innovation hub on their related to their smart specialization, because that's what they want to grow with. Yeah.
We are running out of time, but I think you should at least.
Short question. Max, I totally agree your statement, but that means with your calls we are going to create many digital innovation hub silos, okay, across Europe, and there should be some mechanism, okay, to bring them pan-European level. Otherwise, I think
this is your iPhone. You can keep the microphone, but
so
take the iPhone away.
That's the, maybe next step, okay, so.
Next step, exactly.
Yeah.
I do think that you have a very valid point. I must say that Max says, we'll keep the concept open and everything can be under the umbrella of digital innovation hubs. I'm a little bit more black and white now. But I do also know that a lot of requests are coming in. Could we become a digital innovation hub? And that's a serious issue. Because if you want to spread out the community, to spread out the word to the community that digital innovation hubs are important, you need to have a kind of a mechanism to say, yes, you are a digital innovation hub. If everyone who applies will become a digital innovation hub, that's not good, because the quality will suffer then. And that has directly to do with your question also about connecting. I think there's the need for a digital innovation hub kind of network is very important, because then you can become part of the network, and there needs to be mechanism organized that you can use each other's experiences, but also create access to new markets by becoming one of those networks. But I'm afraid that to organize it, how to organize it, that's something that is still in its infancies. But I think, Ulrich, you might...
Yeah, but I think time is running out.
Okay, sorry.
Because we have one more question via Twitter from Fernando. Can competence centers and digital innovation hubs be also funded by national programs? Are there agreements made? Who wants to answer this?
Shall we try someone else? I think you might be.
Well, I believe that definitely yes. if there are agreements, then I guess Mr. Max Lemke should answer, but I believe the overall policy is to combine funds coming from the EU with funds on the national and on the regional level. But I guess right now countries are also working on their policies, how to align their policies to policy that was proposed by European Union.
I would also take the point combined funding. Yeah, when we say combined funding, it doesn't mean that there is one experiment or one thing that is done and then it has to be co-funded by two. That's definitely not how I understand co-funding. Combining funding means there is a basic infrastructure and certain things are funded by the national initiatives and others are funded by us where the European level comes. But we should not aim at having a bill that three parties will have to pay. Yeah? That doesn't make any sense. So it has to be in another way. But to the answer to the question from Twitter, I would agree. Yes, national and regional initiatives have to do that. We are working on that. We are with this. I would like to say, I4MS is kind of a bottom-up initiative. It started 3 years ago. We grew it from experiments from some nodes, and we are growing it further. And we have others who have copied it, have done similar things, and they are also growing it. ECHORD was at the same time. So we are growing and building it, and now I think it's the time to discuss, like you said, branding and labeling, an innovation hub or not, that may have to come, and we have to work on it. And now the next half year is again a time where we have to do get a major step forward, because we will decide on the next money that comes on the European side, and we have said basically in our communication to Council and Parliament that we want to make European funding conditional on regional and national funding. So we really want to build the glue between what the nation, what the member states and the regions can fund. So in future there will be some way of doing that in a conditional way so that we get the infrastructures built from the member states as well.
Last comment.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one thing. On that part, Max mentioned branding. I think branding and reinforcement by I4MS or the Commission or whatever of the digital innovation hub concept is key. Then new local startup hubs going to their local development agencies for funds can take this stamp of approval, which is a European digital innovation hub, I paraphrase, authorized by the European Commission, that has value in enabling, smart industry throughout the nation or the region. I think that would give budding digital innovation hubs the ammunition to go to their local development agencies for support funds.
Thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you very much that you asked questions, and thank you, Twitter. So that was really, really interesting. And it's another 30 minutes to our coffee break, but we have interesting things to listen in this time. I would say thank you, and you can make it comfortable again in your seats.
Thank you.